Hello, this is Bakamunada and welcome to another tutorial video for Terran. Today's tutorial video will be called Consider Dot Divorce, as I'll be using the 4 and I'll be sniping a lot of queens with the build. Okay, the build is very similar to my other build, but it doesn't really proxy the Thor. You just go straight forward, as proxies aren't the best versus Zerg since they have a lot of map control around their base, but they don't have as much map control around your base, if you know what I mean. Like, they can't really see so well, and you can kind of hide things a lot better, especially in the early game. So it's just depot, gas, then racks, and then after your racks, a second gas. We'll speed it up slightly. Basically, it'll be a very tech-oriented build. You kind of have to do a lot of damage with this for it to pay off. Then you build your factory, then Reaper. The Reaper will scout, then depot. I'll just slow it down slightly. Basically with the Reaper you're scouting any chases, and back at home you build one marine to sort of stop zerglings or the overlord, and you queue up a man drop and just use your Reaper to see if you see, like, it's in an evolution chamber, so I'm worried about sort of overlord drops or anything like that, but I kind of do this 4 build against normal builds. The Thor kind of stops like Roach or Ravager pushes and all that, and if you spot a Ling Bane all in, you can just build a tank and one tank evac and just wall this off to be super safe before going into the Thor. Okay, I've set up my tech lab and just standard macroing, and getting my armory after I've got my 2 mans, my medevac kit, and whoop, that's not right. And then I start my CC, and then my Thor should be next. The man drops kind of like extra just to check what he's kind of going to do, and it's kind of buffer because they tried just going a straight 4 drop, but it doesn't time out as well. So just put 1 man in each base. It's good to know a variety of builds just to keep your Zerg opponent guessing if they pretty much know what you're going to do. Like yesterday with Halt versus True, you become very predictable and they'll always have the correct units to defend. With this build, everything just comes out slightly faster, but you still have to macro up, so I'm building a 3rd CC straight away and no other units, because you have to kind of be greedy as well. But you can see you can rack up a lot of damage if the Zerg's not prepared for it. He's not really sure what I'm doing. I've got my 1 marine to deny scouting, and this medevac comes back to pick up the Thor, and then I've got my 2nd Thor queued, and since my Reaper was watching their 3rd base, oh yes, this overlord spot is quite common, so with that new 4 weapon I can kill those a lot quicker and just go straight to the 3rd. The great thing about the Thor is it can kill about 4 queens by itself, and I've seen Zergs get awfully greedy these days by just defending everything with Lings and queens. So with the Thor you can actually do a lot of damage and you can catch them very off guard. He comes down with a couple of queens, but queens are no match for the Thor. Even 4 queens with a few transfuses will have difficulty beating a Thor. So he's totally unprepared, he doesn't have any roaches, he's just playing very standard meta. The good thing about the 4 is it's very easy to keep alive as well. You just want to kill these queens, and it has a lot of HP, so you have a lot of time to actually save it, but you really shouldn't be losing these floors. Basically behind that, you don't build any more medevacs, and you're just basically powering up with your 3 command centers and your 1 tank to kind of defend. Just being as annoying as possible, but once the life bars on these 4s get weak enough, you can bring them back. Another great thing about this build is you kind of have a strong defense against mutas already, because your 4s can just switch back into the anti-muta mode. Back at home, just build tanks and keep using your starport to build reactors and get about 5 Raxus up, and get your NG base up as well. And that's basically the build. From here on, it's more or less a standard macro. You can basically tune off now, or unless you want to see how I deal with the rest of the transitions in the late game. So I'll just be getting my upgrades. The upgrades are good for knowing when to attack. Basically you want to be attacking as soon as these complete. And with these medevacs you want to keep pressuring, but it's very difficult for Zerg to do much against just a couple of well-placed tanks and medevacs. I'll just speed on till we get to some interesting points. Building walls is also very important, as this basically gives you an advantage against swarming units. With my first 2 medevacs, I'm just going to check his third, his saturation, and have a wee poke around to see what his composition's like, and clear creep wherever I can. See some creep here. And I decided to take this base because I like to sort of keep my units here. It's a bit annoying when Zerg attacks you here and pulls you apart, but some people prefer this base as well, and just building a wall here. But now my upgrades are complete, I feel slightly confident to go in, and I'm just macroing at home with 5 racks, 1 tech lab there, and just building upgrades and marines. Here I'm doing the target fire on the drones, basically by having a rapid fire set on your attack command. You can just hold down the A key on an area and just target drones. It's kind of how Beyond does his Baneling snipes. He just holds the A button and like hovers it where the Banelings are coming, and then the Marines will just automatically target every Baneling that goes in that area. With my initial scout, I did see the roaches got burrow, and I'm just defending. It's always good to leave a couple of tanks at home, because run-bys and all those couple of things can be very annoying to deal with. And we'll speed on to the next attack. Basically you should be lining each of your attacks with your upgrades. Decide to just doom drop again, as I'm kind of safe here and here, and he's not doing very much, but Ravagers are very annoying to deal with. There's nothing really that kills them quickly apart from ghosts or liberators, but I think they're about even with liberators, as when macro dwell, good Ravager control can sort of kill liberators, but you kind of just have to use Marines and medevacs. They're probably the best counter versus them, and 4s are actually surprisingly good on Ravagers as well. sort of my next transition after this would be 2 more starports. I'm about 5,000 MMR, as I mentioned in my other videos. Kind of made this video because one of my friends wanted some TVZ builds, as I often make TVP builds because they're slightly more easier to make because they don't have such an increased, like even this build you kind of have to go through the long game versus Lurk. Like there aren't really that many quick ways to kill them apart from proxy free rocks. So just macroing, and there you go, there are my 2 additional starports. You can get a tech lab on one and build Liberator range if you ever get to that point. But more or less here it's just a back and forth battle. It's pretty much even with the build I mentioned. And it's a lot harder for Zerg to actually get the 3-3, so you do have a small advantage, but most of the time they just go straight for ultras. But I think better Zergs will get the infestors first, but I think I've done a lot of economic damage here that I've delayed his ultras by a significant amount of time, as I have seen a lot of Zerg players get them within under 10 minutes, so if you're not pressuring enough, then you do cause this to happen. The best place to engage are these choke points. He runs up here, and it's very difficult for him to actually kill this, well, trade evenly. You want to target the Ravagers straight away, because they're pretty bad. But roughly my transition is just basically Liberators as your end game unit, as they are required to beat any Ultralisks. After that would be the transition to Ghosts, because I think Zerg's next transition would be to get Corruptors, so you kind of want to get either Vikings, Missile Turrets, or Ghosts to deal with that, but luckily I'm able to beat him before that. You kind of can't kill Zerg that well by just going for their army. You kind of want to go for their economy. So as you can see here, I'm just, when he attacks here, I'm okay for a base trade, because 10 buildings can fly and you still gun down their economy. And basically, since this economy is just dying out constantly, I'll eventually have enough to overwhelm him. And that's my build. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. He should tap out any minute. Okay, there we go. Enjoy.